So Doge is currently conducting a financial revolution in the US, trying to cut government waste and attempt to balance the US's bloated budget, but predominantly undo the diversity, equity, and inclusion infiltration in all of America's institutions. And I would humbly suggest that if they look over to the intelligence departments, they might have missed a few eligible candidates for sacking, as recent leaks by Chris Rufo over at City Journal have pointed out. Before we get into America's pervert-occupied government, go over and consume something nourishing. Issue number 3 of Islander is out. It includes excellent essays from Carl, myself, I'm in this one. Rory has a fantastic short story at the back. It's been lovingly edited, beautifully illustrated, and this time we've printed them in advance to avoid issues with the distributor that I know lots of people had last time. It wasn't our fault. Everything's in decline at the moment. So you should get your copy and regular email updates. It's up there for $14.99 over at shop.lotuseaters.com. Please do enjoy. Now, what I'm referring to in terms of Musk's revolution is he sent an email to pretty much every federal employee in the government, the absolute millions of them. The email, which I've read from friends that work in the State Department, reads, "What did you do last week? Please reply to this email with approximately 5 bullet points of what you accomplished last week and CC your manager. Please do not send any classified information, links, or attachments. Deadline is Monday at 11:59 EST. He sent the exact same email to former CEO and employees at Twitter as well before firing back 80% of the staff, and for the most part, Twitter works quite nicely now. A bit of a bot problem, but they should get on that. A third of employees, according to Politico, have already complied and responded. Now, Musk obviously doesn't have the power himself to fire loads of federal employees, but the purpose of this is to register how many of them are actually active and checking their email. Because then Trump can say, okay, if you guys didn't comply with this, either you're doing make-work jobs, you're working from home, you're not actually checking your emails, and you're just a parasite on the taxpayer, or you're engaging in what they call, euphemistically, strategic non-compliance. Basically, you're quiet quitting or gumming up the works and trying to frustrate Trump's agenda as a member of the permanent unelected bureaucracy. And so Trump's given them a second chance to comply, and some of the departments, like Health and Human Services, Transportation, few others, have gone, oh, okay, he's serious about this one, we better respond to this, otherwise you're all going to get sacked.
So I've seen a few things about this, and lots of media outlets have been really upset at this demand, as if it's somehow an untoward thing to do. But this is pretty standard in lots and lots of different industries. And if you can't come up with 5 bullet points to justify your existence, then you're really, really not pulling your weight, are you? And I don't know why they're making such a fuss about this, because it's actually being done with quite a degree of caution, if you know what I mean. They're not necessarily being gung-ho about it, and in fact, I would have liked to have seen just, you're out, you're fired, you, and then, just pointing over the back, someone just clearing loads of them out. So they're being quite methodical and fair, which
Elon's got experience of this. He's like,
that's true.
I will literally find out what people actually do, and those people who seem to be full of S are just gone. I mean, the fact that the federal 3 million people, at least from what they're giving here. I don't know what the American bureaucracy is. Ours is 500,000, more than. If America's on 3 million, my God, and only 1 million of them have replied. I mean, 2 million of them are literally out to lunch. Obviously don't turn up at the office, obviously don't do any goddamn work. Get rid of them.
But the
It's
thing
not
is,
even controversial.
It's not a difficult thing to do.
No.
If you turned to me, Carl, as my boss, and said, "Josh, name 5 things you do in a day," I'd be like, "I could do that right now."
Yeah, of course.
Wine. Ag.
That's just a matter of passion. That's,
Fair point.
that's not my job.
Josh is the office Karen, he enforces standards, etc. But point being, yes, I agree with you, but the purpose of the system is what it does. And if the system increasingly hires a number of do-nothings on diversity characteristics, then it's not about public sector productivity. It's a left-wing patronage scheme.
And that's why they're upset.
Yes, and we've identified a few of those people in this segment. And the purpose of this segment is actually to say, hey guys, you missed a few. So, this caused complete ire among all of the associated NGOs from the patronage network. Fox News have profiled a few of them. I won't go into all the various groups here. They've said that some are funded by Soros. It's basically like a network of race communists who want to abolish ICE, sympathise with Hamas.
They're all the same people. They're all believe the same thing.
They gave loads of money to former Democrat Congress people like Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush, all the busted flushes. But what's more interesting is not these NGOs that are attached like barnacles to the the aircraft carrier of the US state. It's the permanent bureaucrats inside who have yet to be fired. Now, something else that's contested, and I know people will say, well, hang on a minute, Doge hasn't quite done what it said it's done, because it hasn't touched a lot of the entitlements, and it's probably going to need to do that to balance the deficit. Wall Street Journal have done a breakdown of exactly how much Doge has saved compared to how much it has said it has saved. And their contention is that Doge is claiming to have cut $55 billion on its website. Now, USAID is only $1.2 billion there, and obviously that's under Marco Rubio's jurisdiction. It might get reactivated, especially selectively, but I think the people in Rubio's team are keen for that not to happen, so fingers crossed. The Wall Street Journal analysis projects the actual savings of Doge is closer to $2.6 billion over the next year if spending levels remain constant, and about 2% of the funds would have gone to contracts related to DEI. Now, this means still that millions and billions are being wasted on DEI, that's snipped.
Not nearly as much as we were hoping for.
Unfortunately not. So they're going to have to do a lot more of Curtis Yarvin's policy of rage, which is retire all government employees in order to make sufficient cuts to try and deliver public sector accountability and productivity.
You can start at the Federal Reserve if you want. But one thing I wanted to say was that Dodge actually do have their work cut out to a certain degree, because for some government departments, they might not necessarily spend as much money as other ones, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the amount of money saved is proportionate to the amount of work you need to put in. And so I understand why they maybe not hit the ground running as quickly as some people would like, but so far I think they've actually done quite a good job considering the amount of time they've actually been doing it.
Well, also
any amount of reduction's good.
Exactly. There are two things here: is that the direct savings of Doge aren't going to be the entire savings of the Trump administration. So if the Trump administration does away with the Department for Education, that can't be laid at the feet of Doge, but there's a lot of money saved. Or, for example, a department regulating small businesses is probably going to cost the economy a lot of money, but they're probably not spending as much on personnel as HHS. So even if they cut large amounts of HHS, it might translate to fewer actual savings than just doing away with all those regulations and unleashing the economy. So there's a bit of fudging the numbers here. Anyway, even though, Doge might not be cutting as much as we want or as much as they're stating, it's still a net good. It's still a plank in the Trojan horse of revolution that is bursting through the gates of the deep state, and that's fantastic. One example they use here of why they haven't saved as much, which just sounds like putting up a Mengele memorial in Dachau to me, but more than a quarter of the contracts listed by Doge were already paid, including $168,000 for terminating a contract with HHS for an Anthony Fauci museum exhibit that had already been fully installed.
That's what a US taxpayer wants to hear, isn't it? It's also worth pointing out that just the optics for Trump of reining in all of this stuff is wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think actually when it comes to the midterms in 26, he's going to do relatively well if the US taxpayer's hearing, look at all the things we're stopping the government spending your money on.
Basically, when it comes to the next tax year, if the average taxpayer in the US finds they're not paying as much, that's when it's going to matter.
As long as they've got inflation under control, because the Fed is doing some shaky and rogue things with interest rates. See what happened to Liz Truss for a warning. But there you go. Hopefully, midterms still serve Trump well. Now, if Doge hasn't made as many cuts as we would like, I would suggest that Musk and Trump's other appointees have an abundance of candidates to retire forcefully. And we go over to the National Security Agency, the NSA, because Chris Rufo over at City Journal has got hold of some leaked transcripts of an internal chat room with NSA employees. And I'm just going to read a little from the report before we look at some of the disturbing screenshots. So City Journal have cultivated sources within the NSA, one current employee and one former employee, who provided chat logs from the NSA's Interlink messaging program. Makes you think of Blade Runner 2049. According to NSA press official, all NSA employees sign agreements stating that publishing non-mission related material on Interlink is a usage violation and will result in disciplinary action. So if you go off topic and talk about non-work things, you could get sacked. Nonetheless, these logs, dating back for 2 years, so under the Biden administration, feature wide-ranging discussions of sex, kink, polyamory, and castration.
It's worth mentioning here that the NSA, of course, are responsible for accessing American people's data.
Yeah.
So these people are responsible for your privacy, and when you hear what they're talking about behind closed doors, it raises a lot of questions about how ethical they've been about these sorts of things, because I would imagine that with this kind of unchecked government power, a lot of untoward things have happened.
Well, it raises the issue: who watches the Watchers? And apparently, nobody was watching the Watchers.
Apparently,
And that
Well, they were all watching each other, shagging each other.
Well, yeah, it seems to be sort of Reddit-occupied government, right?
Yeah, pretty much. not inaccurate, actually. Also, what you're referencing is the Patriot Act, of course, and that means that they had a backdoor, so to speak, to all of your devices. So they would be able to access your iCloud, your chat logs, and so if these kinds of degenerates, politically motivated degenerates, had access to all your data, kind of worrying. But there you go. I'm sure Tulsi Gabbard, who's now got this under her jurisdiction, will be investigating all of this. So Rufo writes...
She is.
Very good.
She's on it.
According to our sources, sex chats were legitimised as part of the NSA's commitment to diversity, equity and inclusion.
what an own goal.
Well, we've got to allow them to be complete pervs. Why? Because otherwise we're not woke.
But this is how they square this, right? All NSA employees sign agreements stating that publishing non-mission related material will result in disciplinary action.
The
Okay.
purpose of
They
this
read it
is
as,
what it does.
Yeah,
So read it as non-missionary.
So gay sex is the mission-specific material of the American State Department, at least under the Biden
I
administration.
could have told you that already.
Well, didn't they? Wasn't there the video that came out of the Senate?
That was a Senate aide.
Yeah. Well, there we go. It's just normal part of the culture.
Yeah, fair point. Yep. So activists within the agency used LGBTQ plus employee resource groups to turn kinks and pathologies into official work duties. According to the current NSA employee, these groups...
It's so class. Like if this was like, I don't know, The Office or something, you know, it would seem like a ridiculous brass eye skit, right? That's the thing. It's just so stupid.
Walk into a meeting room and it would just be an orgy, and they're like, "Oh, we're having a team building."
Yeah.
meeting or
Just,
something.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's the Pride equivalent of putting the stapler in a thingy of jelly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
At least that's less damaging.
yeah, point being. So apparently, according to the current employee, these employees spent all day recruiting activists and holding meetings with titles such as privilege, ally awareness, pride, and transgender community inclusion. And they did so with the full support of NSA leadership, which declared DEI was, quote, not only mission critical, but mission imperative. Yeah. The active source at the NSA claimed to have witnessed hundreds of sexually provocative discussions, which, he added, occurred mostly on taxpayer time. The former NSA source, who was familiar with the chats, recalled being disgusted, and if you have children listening, put some earphones in for the rest of this, disgusted by a particularly shocking thread discussing weekend gangbangs.
How is this keeping America safe?
Keeping America safe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Burgers.
Yeah.
Isn't this all, isn't the entire modus operandi of the NSA to
Catch
detect terror
terrorists.
attacks, right?
Yeah, but you forget the intelligence agencies have been reclassifying terrorists as traditionalist Catholics and saying the rosary is a hate symbol, meanwhile completely overlooking Islamist terrorism and all the transgender shooters we've had recently.
Looking in all the wrong places.
Yeah, so we're going to look in some horrible places because we're going to look at some of the transcripts that Chris Russo has so generously posted to X.
Oh, thank you very much for this.
Yes, there's a really nice thread here. So the first one is there we go. The first one is about male to female transition.
Right.
So here's one employee. I mean, honestly, the rest is nice too. Wearing panties without worrying about anything showing because he's had snip. Seeing my reflection in the mirror, wearing leggings, but the pee thing is something I never thought of. It's really nice. Mine, referring to his neo-vagina, is everything. I found that I like being penetrated. Never liked it before gender reassignment surgery, but the rest is just as important as well. I can say this was
Thank God the terrorists didn't win.
1,000,000% worth it. Despite having to fly to Thailand, pay out of pocket and the recovery, I would not change anything if I had to do it over again. Of course, these are the people I trust to keep America safe.
You told me that this was a plant by Al Qaeda to justify them over the NSA. I might believe it.
Can you imagine sending this back to George W. Bush? Like
George Washington?
Well, not anyone.
You'd be like, I'm becoming king.
No, we need the Patriot Act. We need the NSA to keep us safe from the terrorists. It's like, here's some leaks from 20 years in the future. Like, he'd be like, what is this? What am I looking at? This is...
Hey, are you implying that NSA agents discussing how he can wear leggings and bikini without a gaff under it is not mission critical, Carl?
What a terrible time to have eyes and ears.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, it just keeps getting worse. So here's another one. They say that we want hermaphrodite babies in order to advance transgender ideology. An intersex birth would be a great opportunity to raise a kid as non-binary and let them choose later.
It's such a caricature of woke. It's like... you just want Ash Sarkar to have to weigh in on this. He's raining about, woke went too far. Did it go too far, Ash? Didn't hear you saying anything about this sort of stuff.
Credit to these people for being able to hold down a full-time job whilst in a padded room.
Yeah, they're probably chewing on the walls of the cell. There's a bunch more in this thread as well. There's one trans employee discussing hair removal, particularly getting my butthole zapped by a laser. Hello, Lotus, he's out of context. Thanks for that. And saying that they're talking about their installed plastic breasts with language like booba. Deaf happy so far with how HRT has given me to booba. So
it's just Reddit. Just pure Reddit.
Yeah,
I thought that was
God damn it.
BBC Pidgin for a second. Sure, it's not a form of patois.
Yeah, there's discussions about laser hair removal. Medical science is going to give me tits one way or another.
So it's just
That's more true than they realise, but it's just in their food.
Always
AGP fetishists.
Always was. It's literally that meme of the astronaut holding a gun to your back.
Yeah.
It was always about being a porn addict.
Just
That's
Posey Parker totally vindicated by all this.
I want her appointed head of the Home Office.
Yeah.
One NSA official claims to use its pronouns.
Oh God.
Operative Pennywise.
I love the argument. Oh, they're always dehumanizing us. Yes, I'm an it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hi, its user here. While I understand we can make some people uncomfortable, keep in mind that the dehumanizing aspect either.
There we go. They literally used the word. I haven't even seen this, but literally, I'm going to talk about dehumanizing, but I'm actually going to describe myself as an object.
Let's hear them out.
Like, just preposterous.
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about something name. Its pronouns are it and
Dollar
its.
name.
And if they look weirded out further, clarify that those are the pronouns it chose.
Like when we call a ship a she, when you use like female pronouns to refer to a ship, we are humanizing the ship. The pronouns humanize the thing. Going it is literally what you've stepped in on the street. It's like, look at it. Like
if people want to demonize themselves, Carl,
it's
literally demonize.
Literally dehumanizing themselves. God damn it.
They're also discussing the intimate details of their polycules. So here's a polycule is a polyamorous group.
Okay.
Story time, ladies and gentlemen. But not everyone is dating everyone else. There's actually a really good infograph of it on the Rain webcomic it's just Reddit.
It's just Tumblr Reddit.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
So mine looks like a triple bond with P2, double bonds with P3 and P4, who have a triple bond between each other. It's like they're putting up a bridge.
Shut up.
It sounds like they're making loads of comparisons to chemistry here. If you've got to have like...
I think they're on something chemistry.
That's probably
This was only in 2024 as well.
Yep.
It's not like these are historic chats.
Yep, welcome to the Biden administration.
Jesus Christ.
And you wonder why America's been in terminal decline.
Like, think of the most disgusting, ugliest poly couple, whatever they call them, polycule that you see. That's what's running the NSA.
Yeah, pretty much. There's some other things as well. So no wonder Tulsi Gabbard wants to look into this because there's a bunch of literal they-thems here that call her a Russian agent and suggest they're going to do strategic non-compliance and ignore her dictates. So all those people, sack. They also say that she defended Assad's killing of his own people. So I assume they've read a Barry Weiss column or something like that. Then there's a they who says that they should be working to block RFK's confirmation as Department for HHS Secretary.
Should they?
Is that in the NSA's purview as an institution?
No, but do you remember when the FBI agents that were having an illicit affair said that we're going to ensure that Trump doesn't get elected or stay president? I don't think they want to stay within their mission brief.
That's funny, that isn't it?
Yeah, it seems that they're insistent. There's one more as well, which I found really weird. NSA, DIA, and Navy intel officers were debating whether or not Chaya Raichik, libs of TikTok, and Ben Shapiro should remain members of the tribe.
Oh.
They said we should expel them from the tribe, direct quote, because they spew hate speech.
Right.
So what?
So they're not Jewish anymore.
Yeah. So the American government is
It's going to
paying.
be news to Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, the American government is paying your yarmulke card.
Hand it over, Ben.
Yeah, the American government is currently paying like trans Jewish activists to debate who isn't Jewish on taxpayer time.
Right.
Again, just there's loads of these people that can be sacked.
I don't normally watch Ben Shapiro's show, but I might tune in for this one.
It was good.
He surely replied to this.
He spoke to Chris Rufo about it.
I'm gonna have to watch that. That's actually gonna be funny.
Yeah. There's also a racial patronage scheme going on because, of course, it wouldn't be gay race communism without race communism.
Why wouldn't it be?
So NBC have written this piece weeping, but it's very mask off. So remember when you said, well, why wouldn't you just fire these people? it's almost like some kind of racial patronage scheme. They're like, yes.
Yeah.
How else would black people enter the middle class if it weren't for massive redistribution? So they write, when Francine Verdine took a job as a clerk at the Internal Revenue Service in Houston, oh, wouldn't you think of the poor IRS agents? In 1983, it was supposed to be a stopgap until something better came along. She didn't expect that 42 years later, she would look back on it as the start of a rewarding career that provided growth in various management positions, upward mobility, and the opportunity to build a comfortable life for her family.
She's a tax collector.
Yeah.
Remember this. She collects your taxes.
They are literally the lowest of the low in the Bible for a reason.
Also,
Yeah.
they're presenting government jobs like they're a work program.
Yes, they are.
And that's what the Soviets basically did.
Yes.
And FDR.
Yeah.
But I repeat myself.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, exactly. For decades, the federal government provided both reliable jobs and guardrails to offset systemic racial bias in hiring and promotions.
It's so naked. It's so mask off.
The American government is just one giant affirmative action plan, basically.
Incredible.
Yep. Offering an alternative for capital B black workers who might be overlooked or ignored in the private sector. Right, so when they have to compete in the market, they don't get a job.
I tell you, it did crack me up when AA just pack his octopus diagram in. He was like, I've got he came up with this really elaborate theory of how gay race communism spread everywhere, and literally the day all of this started coming out, I was like, no, okay, that was all wrong. It was just the US government. it was just the US government.
Yep.
And it so is. It's just, all right.
Apparently, the US government played a crucial role in helping black workers like Verdine join the middle class and thrive. But vast cuts by the Trump administration, on behalf of taxpayers, led by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, God bless boys, are threatening to close down that once dependable path to financial stability.
Oh, boo-hoo, you're going to have to get a real job.
Yeah. The government, which has about 3 million employees, is the largest employer in the country. That statement alone should be staggering.
I mean, that's more than the Chinese army.
Yeah.
Chinese army's 2.5 million.
We actually have more per capita civil servants than the Chinese do.
Oh, I know, but we're just a smaller country.
Yeah.
The NHS has got something like 1.3 million, whereas the Chinese army's 2.7. I looked it up the other day.
Yeah, NHS is more than McDonald's, isn't it?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yep. Great.
It's absolutely mental.
Another target for UK Doge, if you're listening. Many of the workers fired were either new hires or told they were let go for subpar performance. This is the 75,000 that they've already sacked. Quote, the federal workforce was a means to help the black middle class. It hired black Americans at a higher rate than private employers, said Sheria Smith, president of the American Federation of Government Employees Local 252, which represents education department employees. Obviously, that's on the chopping block. Nearly 30% of education employees are black, according to a 2024 report by the government. Smith said 74 workers at the department had been let go so far, 60 of whom were black, and so there's more to come. Do you want to see an interview with one of them?
Go on then.
You couldn't make this up, right? This is a Houston black IRS employee who tells his sob story about how he has now been deprived of a ladder to the American middle class.
With Michelle Choi to share how he's feeling and his message to those in power.
Nothing there. Nope. Nothing there.
As he waits for an official termination letter to arrive at his front door, Jason Charles shared the toll the last 48 hours has taken on him.
I can't believe this is happening, and it happened so fast. Like I said, I was just in training. I waited 4 months to go to training just to be fired.
He's one of 6,000 plus federal employees who work for the Internal Revenue Service fired this week as part of mass layoffs happening under the Trump administration. The majority of those workers, like Charles, were probationary workers employed for less than a year. Charles told us more than 24 employees were laid off from his office here off Gessner. He says it took over a year to get his dream job as a tax-exempt officer dealing with nonprofit organizations and compliance.
I wanted to serve the people.
And despite recent news, he'd held out hope
Taking their
his
money.
job would be spared.
NGOs.
How are you feeling?
Numb, confused, sad, angry,
What's going on?
lost.
When did you get the official notice? Or was there an official notice?
We never got official notice. I got word from managers that had to be in the office yesterday, and we waited there all day until maybe 12, 1 o'clock. And then it was kind of like a firing range. They lined us up, took our equipment, and sent us home.
His pride and passion taken away.
Excited. I was so excited to learn the job. I was telling my management
He's not
I was
going to make
gonna
it as
be
an
best.
actor.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not
count
getting
on
an
me.
Oscar for this.
And it's not like I have have no say-so.
I knew this was coming.
They
I
just
knew it.
toss you away. And I thought corporate America was like this, not the government.
How would you feel?
I'm not
The
the
government
government.
takes care of their people.
How would
When
you
asked
feel if you
why
did
he
work
would
for the
speak out
IRS this
now,
time?
This was the only way I had a voice. I can't go to Washington and go in the Oval Office. I can't contact my congressman. He's too busy. He doesn't want to hear me. I try to reach out. This is the only way I can get people to hear what happened.
According to a statement sent to KHOU11.
Yeah, so that's the kind of people they've sacked.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's hard
piss
to,
off.
hard to feel sorry for them. So one final suggestion before we wrap up. I helped Ayaan Hirsi Ali with this piece, basically on the Department of Justice's Community Relations Service, which anytime there's like a terrorist attack or something, they send out a community leader, be it for trans or Muslims or black,
Oh, yeah.
to go and represent this. And this is actually baked into law by Title 10 of the Civil Rights Act 1964 and the Hate Crime Prevention Act of 2009. So if Trump actually just repealed all those in executive order, you could immediately defund the entire racial grift industrial complex and all of these activist groups that the government is currently mandated to fund. So Tulsi, get on the NSA. Elon, keep going on the IRS. And Trump, get rid of the Civil Rights Act. And we can ensure that American taxpayers aren't lining the pockets of these race communists.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.